What's up, YouTube? You're with gothatfunk, and this is a video response to my good friend Tommy from the Bronx. How you doing, Tommy? I'm talking about your most recent video, Tommy, where you were sort of lamenting the loss of liberty in America and the encroachment of the police state. I mean, okay, fair enough, Tommy didn't use the term police state. That's my term. If you haven't already seen Tommy's video, I will link it in the description box below. I recommend that you watch it before you watch the rest of this video so that this makes a bit more sense. Anyway, Tommy, in your video, you mentioned that every time you complain about America, you'll always get some people in your comment section saying to you things along the lines of, well, hey, if you don't like it, get the fuck out, and all that kind of crap. Well, this is a sentiment that goes back a long way. I remember when I was a kid and the Vietnam War was raging, and there used to be bumper stickers and posters and whatever, and the phrase back then was, America, love it or leave it. My stepdad, who raised me, used to say that shit all the time. And why I find this ironic coming from Americans is because most of the people in the United States of America are descended from people who came from someplace else. In fact, I suppose if you want to turn history back far enough, everyone who lives in America has ancestors who came from someplace else. And except for those of us in America who are descended from slaves, all of us who are descended from immigrants, our ancestors came to the United States because they thought their prospects would be better for themselves and for their children and their descendants. That's why they came there. I myself, Tommy, am descended from mostly Danish and English ancestry. And my Danish ancestors were the first to arrive in America back in 1823. And my great, I think, grandfather was a shopkeeper in Copenhagen. So it's not as if my ancestors were destitute. It's not as if they didn't have, there weren't political refugees or religious refugees or anything like that. They weren't fleeing oppression or anything like that, which, a lot of people in America, their ancestors were fleeing particularly bad circumstances. Mine weren't. And I've often marveled at the courage that it must take to leave behind your family, your friends, your hometown, everything you ever knew, basically, and move to a country where you barely can speak the language, where you don't know a single fucking person, and where the entire future is completely uncertain. But my ancestors did it, and so did yours, and they carved a civilization out of the wilderness. And, that is definitely an achievement and something that, as an American, I think we have the right to be nationally proud of. America hasn't really been there for all that long. And yet we have one of the greatest civilizations on Earth. So, when your ancestors and mine decided to up sticks and move to America, do you think that the situation in the home country, my case Denmark and Britain, your case, I don't know, Italy and somewhere else probably, but do you think the situation was as bad for them there at that time as things are for Americans in America right now? Do you think things are worse right now in America? Potentially they could be. Here's the question, though. I really want to ask you, Tommy, this question. I want to encourage all of my viewers who are Americans to ponder and answer this question. I look forward to a robust conversation in the comment section, but video responses would also be greatly appreciated. Here's my question. Americans, I'm going to give you three options. I'm sure there's probably more options, but just for the sake of argument, pretend that these three are the only options available. You can either, number one, stick with the status quo. Allow things to progress the way they are progressing without you doing anything more proactive to change things than voting. Okay? Or not voting if that's your modus operandi. Option number two, you become an activist. You pick a cause or several causes that matter to you personally, and you spend time, money, blood, sweat, and tears trying to see your vision for your cause realized. Or option number three, let's just say hypothetically for the sake of an experiment, that Canada has decided to throw open its borders to American citizens. And any Americans who wish to can move to Canada as long as they take all their money and possessions with them. Now, that's option number 3. If you're an American, which of those 3 options would you embrace? As regards option number 3, it's purely hypothetical. Of course, that's never going to happen. But I suspect quite strongly that millions and millions of Americans would move to Canada if that was an option. If it was easy to move to Canada and relatively close to free to get in, would you go? What I find interesting is, and I could be completely wrong, but my operational assumption when I ask this question is that more people would be prepared, probably millions would be prepared to up sticks and move to Canada and start over from scratch. But I think more people would be prepared to do that than become activists and fix things in the country of their birth. And I just find that really hard to swallow. Now, you might look at me and say, well, Paul, you're a fucking hypocrite. You already live abroad. You're not moving back to America to try to fix things and make things better. Yeah. And as far as that is a true statement, what y'all don't know about me is that this is a question I have been wrestling with for the past 10 years. Ever since the war in Iraq got started in 2003, and ever since then, I have debated with myself whether or not I would move back to America for the specific purpose of becoming an activist. Because I actually care about my fucking country. All the time on the internet, I get asked the question, well, if you don't live in America, why do you care so much about what happens there? Well, because I'm an American. Because whether or not this feeling of mine is misplaced, I feel that I belong to America and America belongs to me. Not in an ownership sense, but more in a familial sense. I feel that it belongs to me. And I feel that if you're an American, you're my people, and I'm one of your people. Call me a product of brainwashing if you want, but I really, really feel strongly about this. And, you know, once upon a time, if my ancestors decided to fix things in their home country, America might never have gotten built, because if everybody's ancestors did that, you know, it would still be, you know, more or less a wilderness. So the urge to strike off and start over again is something I could understand. I could understand wanting to start over from zero. But is it really easier? Or is it better? If it's better, then I could understand leaving everything behind and trying to start over from scratch. But if that's the kind of choice you would make because it's the easier sounding option, then I suggest you perhaps should do some reflection on that. Now, I would have moved to America a long time ago to become an activist, frankly, Tommy, if the United States already had universal health care. Because I can say for sure, especially as I advance in years, one of the biggest appeals to where I live right now is the fact that, you know, if I walk outside and get hit by a truck, I'm going to get seen to in the emergency section without so much as I won't even have to sign a form saying, you know, I'll pay. It's given that I'm going to be seen to. I've already paid because I pay my national insurance. 10% of my wages. That's it. And I'm 100% covered. So it's not just a principle for me of moving back to America just purely on my principles. I'm a human being and I have to take care of my practical concerns as well. But I do think about moving back all the time. And sometimes when I say this to people on the internet, I get the reaction people say to me, well, you're kidding yourself if you think you can move back and change the whole country by yourself. And Tommy, you also mentioned in your video that, you know, one person all by themselves can't make a difference. And up to a point, I agree. But whenever someone says to me that one person can't make a difference, my usual response is always Rosa Parks. Because it's fair enough that Rosa Parks didn't, you know, create the civil rights movement by herself, and she didn't do the whole civil rights movement by herself, it is, I think, fair enough to suggest that if Rosa Parks hadn't sat there steadfast to her convictions and refused to get to the back of the bus, like she did, then America would be a different country now. If that one person caved in to pressure and fear, our country would be a different place right now. So don't tell me that one person can't make a difference. Now, also, don't worry, because I don't kid myself. I don't think I've got some kind of invisible Superman cape on. I don't think that I could come back and fix everything. But all it takes is one rock being pushed over the edge of the cliff at the right time and in the right place, and an avalanche will ensue. I hope that more people choose option 2 and decide to become activists. I may move back to America someday for this reason. I don't know. At the moment, I'm in limbo. But I can say for sure that if I knew I was moving back to America, I would not choose option number 1. I would definitely choose option number 2. What about you?